What is up, you guys? Marty McFly coming at you, bringing you guys the merch. Sorry for the long delay since our last couple of videos. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2024. I don't know what happened with the last year, but 2023 just seemed to skyrocket on out of here. It just moved so quickly. Halloween, I felt like there was like a 5-day separation between Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas all together at the same time. They flew by so quickly, but I hope everyone was doing well out there. I hope everyone got to see their family, their friends, their dogs, whatever, and just, maybe took a couple steps back away from their regular everyday life and maybe found something that they enjoyed, something that made them happy. For the last couple of months, it just, especially with the new job, I mean, everything just flies by, but it did feel good to get some tunes, go see some friends, see my folks, and just kind of, when I wasn't at work, just to be able to put everything away and just enjoy the moments that I had and maybe not focus so much on everything else. So it was pretty nice to just be able to sit down with mom and dad, and unfortunately we didn't get together with my brothers like we normally do every year, but it did feel good to sit down with my parents and just cherish the little bit of free time that we had together and really just think back about the last couple of years for our family, ourselves, and really maybe even be a little bit more grateful than we normally are. So, happy 2024 to everybody. It's a new year, new beginning. The gym is packed, which is awful because when you're used to going to the gym every day, same time, and you're used to your usual cycle, the machines are usually a little bit more open throughout the rest of the year. Right now, it's just bad. I mean, every bench press is being taken up by a bunch of broccoli-haired teenagers. They all have the same earring, the same Patrick Mahomes haircut. They all have the same just garbage. They're wearing Crocs, or they're wearing whatever those horrible shoes are, Birkenstocks, or they're just wearing socks to the gym now. They're wearing PJs to the gym now. It's terrible. And I guess when you're used to going to the same gym, the same time every day, you know the same people. Even when you're there on late Friday night, you're always with the same people. And now every treadmill, every bench press, every squat rack, everything is being taken up by people that are bringing in tripods or trying to take pictures of themselves. I guess one benefit to Esporta is it doesn't last that long. Esporta / LA Fitness, they're not as cheap as you would say like Crunch, because when you go into Crunch, there's 9,000 people in there with freaking tripods, and it's terrible. Poor form. Everyone's just there to show off their new gym clothes. They last about a month, but I guess the one benefit to LA Fitness / Esporta, it's got a high amount of turnover for the New Year's people and high schoolers, relatively speaking. A lot of them don't last that long because it does cost a little bit more to get in there, so they all tend to go over towards Crunch, where the rest of the Gen Z population goes. So at the end of the day, when you go to Gold's Gym or you go to LA Fitness, my health insurance gets me into both, which is kind of nice. You get a lot more people that are a lot more serious, and you don't have to worry about kicking over tripods when you're trying to get over the weights. Anyway, end rant. I hope everyone's having a great 2024. Let's start off with something new. So, Rise Records. Let's talk about that. Everybody thinks of Rise Records, they think of 2009 Warped Tour bands, which is kind of fair. And they've produced some of the most successful bands in the metalcore, post-hardcore, pop-punk, that genre, the newer age, post-hardcore, pop-punk, all those bands, 09 to 2013 Warped Tour bands. They produced a lot of the most successful bands, and I think, Rise Records is still continuing, but they are not the new up-and-coming label where everyone's jumping at the bit to get in with them. So now, I've noticed every year, or even twice a year, Rise Records is doing these humongous sales, and this one was for Black Friday. The one was about a year before that, I think even pre-Black Friday, to be honest with you. It might have been in the spring of 2022, if I remember correctly, but Rise Records basically does these massive sales. Vinyl's half off, CDs are $5, posters are like $2, stickers, t-shirts, tank tops, cassette tapes, everything you could possibly imagine on Rise Records is on sale. So what did I do? Of course I took advantage of it. I did not do a video last time for it, unfortunately, but I bought a bunch of CDs, I got like 2 shirts, 1 tank top that I basically just used for the gym. a shit ton of vinyl, and me and my buddy Logan both basically took advantage of that. So let's go and get started. This is one of those bands that really doesn't need a lot of introduction in forms of the... God, I hate using the metalcore label for this type of band because they're so different. I mean, if you took pop punk prog and Warped Tour and mixed them all together, that's basically you'd end up with this band. And I really don't like putting them in because they really did define their own genre. Now they have a million copycats. They sound exactly like them. So this is, of course, Dance Gavin Dance. This is their self-titled album, or the Mothership album. Mothership, listen to me. The Death Star album, as it's been called as well. But this is Dance Gavin Dance, their self-titled album. Heralded by the primary songwriter, which is Will Swan. This is the first album that did not have their first lead singer when Dance Gavin Dance was first getting started. So you have Johnny Craig, who did the very first Downtown Battle Mountain album, and then before that you actually had the EP, Everything I Say Is Royal Ocean, and this is the first one where Johnny Craig was not there. Johnny Craig actually comes back in the band later on, spoiler alert, and then of course heralded by Tillian Pearson now. So when this band, Kurt Travis took over, he's very known for his really aggressive, interesting stage presence, doing a bunch of weird stuff on stage. I remember seeing them with the Thrash and Burn tour. Will Swan and Kurt Travis on stage doing some weird things where they're passing out and trying to revive each other. I don't know. This is probably... I don't even want to say it because it almost hurts to say it, but I would say this is definitely top 3 Dance Gavin Dance records for me overall. This is probably my favorite one featuring Kurt Travis, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. I mean, Downtown Battle Mountain 1 and this are probably go back-to-back for everyone's favorite Dance Gavin Dance records, unless, you know, you go to Downtown Battle Mountain 2 when Johnny Craig comes back, or some people even enjoyed I Loved Happiness. I don't understand the hatred, except for one song. There's one song I really did not like on Happiness, and that's Strawberry Swisher. Man, what a weird song. But Kurt Travis's melodies, I think, definitely aggressive, because Kurt even does have a little more of aggressive vocals sometimes, but his melodies, his singing quality is so simple, it's underrated. I don't think it's super pushy. He's not doing the oh, whoa, whoa, whoas that Johnny Craig is doing. And don't get me wrong, I love Johnny Craig's voice, and I think everybody else does that pretty much listen to Emerosa or Dance Gavin Dance. But I do like the simplicity of Kurt Travis's voice. He's a very good singer, and I think the melodies on this I enjoyed way more because the melodies were very concrete. They made sense. They weren't singing just to sing, which can't be said about some bands, because if you listen to like We Came as Romans and they're, rest in peace Kyle, but there's a couple albums with We Came as Romans where Kyle's singing just to sing, and the melodies don't make sense, they don't fit, they don't sound good. I think Kurt Travis sings purposefully, and his clean vocals I really, really enjoy. They're very easy to sing along to. There's not a lot of like extravagance, whoa, 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 whoas, none of that stuff. Granted, I do love Johnny Craig's voice, but I like Kurt Travis's cleans on this. And then John Mess's screams, I think, are very on the money every time. This has got probably some of my favorite Dance Gavin Dance songs ever. Now, if you listen to them now with Tillian Pearson, formerly of Tides of Man, Tides of Man is actually basically a non-vocals band now, and they've probably sound better now than they've ever done. We're still waiting for a new record, which has been taking forever, but they're from the Clearwater area. Tides of Man is, and Tillian Pearson was in that band in this area, and well, not my area, but he was in the Clearwater area. And I overall, Tillian Pearson's direction with the band, I really enjoy it. I do. The last couple of records I had a lot of fun with, and like Afterburner, all those. I think I'm still really enjoying what Dance Gavin Dance has to offer. Will Swan, of course, is a genius. So is John Mess. And Tillian Pearson, man, it's like if you didn't like Geddy Lee and Rush, it's like getting used to Tillian Pearson for the first time. He's very interesting vocal persona, very high pitched, very effeminate, I guess you could say. And it did take some getting used to, but I did enjoy it. But this is Dance Gavin Dance, their self-titled record. Kurt Travis on clean vocals, John Messa screaming, Will Swan, of course, who's been in all of their records. But this album has probably inspired, dozens of rip-off bands, dozens of songs from other bands. I think between this and the Johnny Craig persona of their band and how these records sounded, they've inspired countless of spin-offs, but this is probably one of my favorite ones. Definitely my top 3 Dance Gavin Dance. So, notable songs: Alex English, obviously incredible. Me and Zoloft get along just fine. Hot Water on Wool and The Reprise. Uneasy Hearts Weigh the Most. Caviar featuring Chino Moreno of Deftones. Rock Solid from Mad Geese. Rock Solid's got a nice little thing in the middle of the song, which, me and my metalhead friends will always say to each other in the middle of the day, just like, dude, you are rock solid. So go listen to that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the record itself is fantastic. So this is the first of our go-to from the Rise Records box. Again, this album was really hard to get. If you want the OG copy or you want the 180 gram double vinyl, it's super expensive. So I was really glad to be able to pick up a copy of this. And this is 180 gram single disc, not double disc, but I like the fact that all the songs are on one disc. I like to flip once on the record player. So, yep. Great record. If you haven't heard it, please do so. I think it's a great entry-level way to start with Dance Gavin Dance. Now, something a little different. This is, of course, still Rise Records. This is a band I've been listening to since their very first album. They've changed lead singers twice, and the original lead singer is back in the band now. This band is originally from Michigan, as noted by their current lead singers, noted multiple times. I've met him a ton of times every time they come in through the concert venues, and every time I get him, he's growing up, he's getting a little bit older, but every time I meet him, I swear to God, the guy's like, he's not taking roids, but every time I see him, I swear to God, he's getting buffer and buffer. This, of course, is when people want to think of post-hardcore and heavier metalcore, not as much emphasis on cleans, but nowadays a lot more emphasis on cleans. This is the return of Chad Rulig, his first time back in the band after he left. This is, of course, For the Fallen Dreams. This is Heavy Hearts. For the Fallen Dreams, I've always known them for their cover art. Their cover art is always spectacular. The only time I didn't say that was their newest record, which, they signed to a Rising Empire. A Rising Empire, I feel like, is really lacking as far as the... I don't know what you call it. All the bands are trying to start basically sound the same. Every band on there is basically trying to sound like an electronic, heavy, cut-off band like that, where they're all copying off of each other. And I feel like that's the unfortunate downside of Rising Empire. They've signed great bands, but I feel like the latter releases have been rap and hip-hop heavy, electronic heavy, fast vocals, and I don't necessarily always like what their melodies come out like. So this is before all that. The only thing I will say about Rising Empire is they signed Landmarks, and I love everything Landmarks has been doing. They're incredible live, very talented band. They deserve all the praise that they get. They do a little bit of the electronic-y, maybe a little bit of the rappy vocals sometimes, but if you listen to their very first couple records, even now, all their stuff's great. But their White album, oh my God, it's absolutely incredible. The one with November on it, absolutely incredible. So this is before that. This is when they were still on Rise Records. This is Heavy Hearts. This is their first release with Chad Rulig back in the band after Dylan Rector left. So initially you have Changes, which is featuring Chad Rulig. Chad Rulig leaves. And then you have Relentless, which is my second favorite. Yeah, I love it. Relentless, with that really gnarly cover of the priest with the mask carrying the axe with the house burning in the background. Absolutely one of the gnarliest covers I've ever seen. Scary, genuinely awesome, heavy looking cover. That was their first with Dylan Richter. Dylan Richter, a little bit of clean vocals on that album, but not as much as latter parts of For the Fallen Dreams. The more Dylan Richter stayed in the band, the more melodic and the more he pushed with his singing, but he also kept a lot of screaming. Wasted Youth, which was Dylan Richter's last album with the band, still a fun album. I really enjoyed it. I think the recording quality absolutely sucks, and everybody knew it. If this was going back in the day with Facebook before Instagram really took off, like for my friends and stuff. So when For the Fallen Dreams announced where they were recording Wasted Youth at, everybody immediately like just said abandoned ship. The studio they recorded at looks like a tiny like junky house, and they knew with that producer and that venue it was going to sound like trash. And unfortunately, the strength of that album, you know, I feel like is marred only slightly by a really terrible recording quality. Like, that's how I feel about the new Beartooth record. The new Beartooth record is sensational. It's so well done, and the melodies and the screams, the breakdowns, everything is perfect. But the recording quality freaking sucks, and I don't mean to sound like a child about this, but as, you know, the very first 2 or 3 Beartooth records, all the recording quality is incredible. And then you have this album, which I'm pretty sure Caleb Shomo produced himself, but it sounds like someone who didn't know how to engineer at all. There's no bass. The treble is like cranked all the way up, but then if you want bass, all the bass is gone for the breakdowns, so you really don't feel anything. Everything sounds like it's way up here, and there's no bottom or middle end. And I feel like it takes away from the band. You have to actually turn the volume up on the album probably twice as high as you normally would just to hear anything. So anyway, that's how I feel about the new Beartooth. Great album, marred by terrible sound engineering. Anyway, this is Heavy Hearts by For the Fallen Dreams, for Acacia Records, of course, return of Chad Rulig. I still remember seeing them in Tampa at the Transitions Art Gallery. Tiny little skate park, tinier venue with no air conditioning. Got to meet Chad there a couple times. Got to meet him at other, you know, at Crowbar and Ritz and all these other places. Every song on here is so well done and well thought out. The songs don't sound like, you know, there's no throwaway songs. There's no skippables. Every song has its own energy, its own meaning, its own melody. You know, Emerald Blue and Bombay and Mimic, I'd probably say are my top 3 songs on there. Just name a few if you wanted to give them a shot. Lights is pretty cool. It's actually got the lead singer from words are hard. The lead singer of The Color Morale, so actually the song Lights is in there. He's doing backup. But you have Emerald Blue, Dream, Bombay, Mimic. All 3 are amazing songs. Everything, even Amnesia is fantastic. All the songs are great. Just listen to it, put it on, try not to skip anything. It's a fantastic record. This actually comes out on bone white vinyl. So anyway, that's my rant about that. Overall, fantastic album. It's one of my favorites by For the Fallen Dreams. It was really a great return to form for Chad Rulig to come back in the band. This next one, I kind of got by accident. I actually ordered the normal vinyl, and this book edition came back. Rice Records actually reached out to me and said, hey, we don't have that. Would you rather the deluxe book edition? I'm like, yeah, why not? So this is actually my least favorite album by them. I just think the album was missing a few things, but it's still a fantastic record. You know, once I spent more time with it, it's still probably at the bottom end of my least favorite albums by them, just because I think there was a lot of ideas that they had that they didn't put together. We're sort of missing the good melodies from prior albums. This was just an album where you could tell that the band was kind of struggling, probably with touring so much for such a long time. Even the name of the album kind of tells you where the band is at this time. I think even the lead singer, you know, to spoil it, but Mike Ranica, the lead singer at that time, I had seen him live just recently, and he was really deep down the rabbit hole from, I don't know if it was substance abuse, but he was, you know, everything was live, was anti-political, anti-whatever, and it's like, dude, we just want to watch you play, man. Like, we just want to, you guys are really talented, and he would go on rants forever about whatever he was anti at the time, but it really seemed like he as a singer was maybe struggling this time, and the band was struggling too. This is Transit Blues by The Devil Wears Prada. Like I said, it's not my favorite album by them. It's probably my least favorite. Do I still enjoy it? Yes, because it's heavy as shit. It's raw as shit. There's not a lot with the synth on this album. It's just heavy, raw. You could tell there's a little bit of zombie in there, but there's only a few songs where you really get to hear cleans coming out. Notable songs, Daughter and To the Key of Evergreen were on, you know, I guess you could say listed singles they played pretty frequently. To give you an idea, I would say those 2 songs are probably 2 good ones to start with, but I will say this though, the book edition, now this is this really hard, I don't know what you want to call it, it's like, like a felt wall, like a sandpaper wallpaper type of feeling. But the inside is filled with all these notes from the band, them playing them, you know, it's got liner notes, and it just shows them kind of hanging out in between while they're recording. I mean, absolutely beautiful photos you can see in here as well. My apologies, I'm gonna try and show this to you guys. But as you can see, you know, really cool stuff about them recording this album. The album itself, Transit Blues, you can tell has a lot to do with them traveling as a band, and just they sound like they were kind of going through some stuff at the time. But if you listen to the songs, traveling, I don't have to travel for a living. I don't know what that's like, but every person I've ever talked to that's ever been in a band has said the same thing, that traveling just takes it out of you, and I think that's kind of where this was going. But anyway, that's Devil Wears Prada. It's still a fun album. It's heavy, it's raw, it's not as melodic as some of their other pieces, but it's still pretty good. Now this band, I know they don't like being labeled as this. If you listen to some of their older stuff, you could definitely hear a lot of hardcore influences on them as a band. And to a degree, I would still put them in the big four of deathcore, which people may or may not agree with. But I feel like if you don't have this band, you don't have modern deathcore. I mean, my big four of deathcore, honestly, Job for Cowboy, Suicide Silence, Whitechapel, and then the fourth one, it's hard, because there's a lot of bands that probably deserve to be in the top four. I don't think I'd put Chelsea Grin in there as much anymore, just because I feel like Chelsea Grin's, are they big? They're big, or do I think a lot of their talent is kind of washed away? Yeah, because now they're just a chug band, and all their songs sound exactly the same. They haven't really done anything like their first three records. So I have a hard time putting Chelsea Grin in that. But, you know, for the big four of deathcore, I mean, Vincent said he didn't like the genre title, that he didn't want to be associated with it, and now he says he's kind of okay with it. But yeah, I mean, Despised Icon, Job for a Cowboy, Whitechapel, and then the fourth one's tough. If you think about who should be in the big four of deathcore, I agree Carnifex could potentially be up there. Bring Me the Horizon, before they turn to whatever it is they're doing now, for a short while, could have been there. And then All Shall Perish, I think, should be up there too. But I feel like if you don't have this band too, you don't have modern deathcore. I think Despised Icon pretty much started deathcore, to be honest with you. You have bands like Deadwater Drowning that were doing that before them. And the influences that Despised Icon, like Alex says he's listened to before that, but Despised Icon probably started it. And then you have this band. This is the Acacia Strain, Death is the Only Immortal. This, such an interesting album for them. So this came out 2012, Rise Records. Came out at an interesting time in my life. But this was actually engineered, produced, and mixed by Daniel DL. He's currently clean vocalist for Bad Wolves. If you know him from that, before that he was in the band Legend with Chad Rulick. Now, my understanding is someone else also helped with this album, but I could be wrong, but I want to say this was actually recorded with Adam Duckowitz of Killswitch Engage. That is my understanding. I think he was in his studio. I would actually need to double check and look that up to figure out if that is true or not. But yeah, Daniel D.L. Laskowitz, that's clean vocals in Legend, in their third album, and then he's also the lead singer of Bad Wolves. This comes on a beautiful lemon lime green vinyl. This album was so different as far as the Acacia Strain goes, and the reason I say that is because the songs are quite a bit longer, much to my enjoyment. I love the fact that these songs are long. The bass is so bass heavy on this record. It shakes your car, shakes your house, etc. But it was almost drowning. Like when I put the CD in my car for the first time, the bass is almost drowning. That's how heavy it is, and the bass drops, everything. But this is also when you really start to, you get to see some of their melodic side too. Similar to how you see on Continent, or, good grief, man, my brain is shot today, people. Wormwood, Continent, You know, even their first 2 records, you really notice their hardcore influences, but you also get a lot of melody out of this record too. And that's something I've always appreciated about the Acacia Strain, is they still find ways to sneak in a little bit of melody to make their songs just that much better. A key mark for them, they always have the bird and they always have the skull in their records. If you check out some of the other ones, there's always something like that. And just an overall great album. I mean, everything on here was fantastic, but I would say, you know, my favorite 3 that I'd say are good ways to see if you like the band or you like the album. I would say Brain Death is my favorite just because of the really melodic guitar parts of this record. The Mouth of the River and Doomblade are probably the 3 songs I would say if you like the Acacia Strain or you want to try this album, I would try those 3 songs first. But yeah, the Acacia Strain, Death is the Only Immortal, another album where every song was so carefully done. There's no throwaway tracks. Every song they made sure to say each song should be its own single, and that's how I felt about this album itself. It's a joyride from end to end. It's brutal. It's angry. It's you kind of want to be alone when you want to listen to it, or you want to be at the gym just breaking stuff. It's a great journey though, and I can't recommend that album enough. That's why I wanted to get it when I saw it was on sale. To actually have a vinyl copy of this, absolutely. Now, this band who signed to Sharp Tone Records, and I thought the album before this one was good with their Sharp Tone release. I don't really like what Sharp Tone is doing right now. I feel like every band sounds exactly the same with overproduced electronic background noise, whatever you want to call it. I feel like, with the exception of August Burns Red, which their newest album was a dark, proggy take on an album where every song goes into the next song, but each song is its own entity, its own idea. Do I feel like it was their best work? No, but I played it 1,000 times because I wanted to hear nuances that I didn't hear otherwise. That was actually the first ABR album in a while where I bought it on CD and I said, okay, but there were some things that I really liked, some things that I'm like, okay, I see your idea here, but did it stick with me? Is it replayable? Probably not as replayable as I thought it was. Of course, the record features lead singer Killswitch Engage, Jesse Leach, and I thought he did a phenomenal job on that. The music video is very emotional, very dark, and most of the record is very dark. And you have to give August Burns Red all the credit in the world for what they're doing. I would say if there's a big 4 of metalcore, I would say there's the new modern metalcore big 4, and obviously it'd be August Burns Red, hands down, and the OG, because if you listen to August Burns Red before all this, before they became a metalcore band, I would say they were a post-hardcore band first, because their stuff was very, if you listen to Thrill Seeker, I would still say it's a post-hardcore band first. Going into what they're doing now, you could say they're in the modern era of metal, of the big 4 of metalcore. Before that, I would still think it's All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, and I'd put Converge. I'd say if you want to talk about the big original 4 of metalcore, not to disclose the new wave of American heavy metal, which is its own genre, but I would say the big 4 of metalcore, which every band on the planet has tried to copy, I would still say it's All That Remains, Killswitch, As I Lay Dying, and Converge. You could even say some of the early mathcore bands are probably responsible for more of the sound than everything else. If you talk to Killswitch and the guys in Trivium, they would say At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, was almost like the first metalcore record because everybody copied off of that album. So I would go as far to say August Burns Red belongs in the new era of modern metalcore, probably alongside Fit for a King. I can't put Parkway Drive in there, no matter how many times people try to call them a metalcore band. I would say Parkway Drive has drifted into butt rock. I hate to say it. I just don't enjoy anything they're doing. I haven't enjoyed the last 2 albums. They're straight up butt rock now. Sorry. Heavy butt rock, whatever you want to call it. I wish I could say I love Parkway Drive's new stuff. I just don't. It's just, after, when Atlas, Deep Blue, Horizons, Killing with a Smile, all amazing records. And then to go into what they're doing right now, are they one of the biggest bands in the world? Yeah, but it's, I would almost go to call them an entry-core band. I wish I could say I liked it, even if they were popular, whatever, but I just don't like what they're playing. I don't like the melodies. I don't like what they're doing with their sound. It just sounds like this, I don't even know what you want to call it, but there's a million bands that sound just like them. They're not really innovating anymore. I don't really like what they're doing with their sound or their melodies. The heaviness, it's like butt rock. Anyway, so that was to go off of this to say this about that. This band, now signed with Sharptone, released one of the worst albums on the planet this year, or this past year, 2023. I don't like it at all. I liked 2 songs, and the rest of the album was very skippable. The melodies aren't well written. It sounded like the band was like, yay, we're signed to Sharptone. Well, I don't really want to try this hard. I just want to play arena rock shows and whatever. This album is not that. I would even say their most recent release prior to the one that came out last year, the one before that, which was Echo, was fantastic. It was heavy, well written, well thought out. Every song was its own idea. They didn't sound exactly the same. And then we have this, which was, when the band had to change lead singers, when Austin Carlisle had to leave. And now you have this. This is Of Mice and Men with their self-titled record. Heavy, well-produced, crystal clear sound quality. And just every song, even their cover of Pink Floyd's Money was right on the money, excusing the pun. Well made. It made you want to go listen to Pink Floyd's Money, but now I can't listen to the old version because I like the heavy new version. When Shaylee took over as lead vocals, he also played bass. Now he doesn't play bass anymore because now he's just doing vocals and screams by himself. This was really an attempt for him to see what he could do, and he hits them, to replace Austin Carlisle in his giant 9-foot presence. Unfortunately, the guy was suffering from a medical condition as well as, some alcohol problems, and he's really, for what the guy did for the metalcore community, he had a lot of friends, but then he had some issues and whatever. But when this guy takes over to do vocals, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out while we're talking. When this guy pulls up to do vocals, he had to handle cleans and screams, and I think he did a fantastic job as a new wave for Of Mice and Men. Not only was he doing that, he's playing bass at the same time. So his first band before he joined Of Mice and Men was Jamie's Elsewhere. And we have a wonderful booklet on the inside. I didn't even know this was in here, but this is all part of the Rise Records bundle that I got. This is absolutely incredible. I don't know if I said Shaylee earlier. I meant to say Aaron Pauley. My mistake. That was my fault. Try not to mess up that bad. But Aaron Pauley had to take over after, and he did a great job with Jamie's Elsewhere. His Jamie's Elsewhere release last year was fantastic. I think that was way better than the last Of Mice and Men record, which I really don't enjoy, and most of my friends think is garbage. I think this last album was kind of like what Bullet for My Valentine did with Gravity, or Fever, or Temper, or, entry core, not well made, just kind of like going through the motions, didn't really sound like they cared that much. And that's how I felt about the new Of Mice and Men record. I was like, I don't even know what the name of it is because I only listened to it twice and I really didn't like it. It just didn't sound like they cared anymore. I feel like that's the sound we're getting out of Sharptone. The only band that seems to be doing the best on Sharptone right now, with the exception of August Burns Red, is Currents. Currents has kept their sound together, and every song is well written and methodical and thought out. Anyway, so this is Rise Records with Of Mice and Men. This is their self-titled album. Every song on here is, you just gotta listen to it through cover to cover. They do the usual thing where the last song is like a ballad. That's like how they end all their records now. If you listen to the end of Echo, it's a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young cover, which I wasn't really expecting, but I thought they did a good job with it. But Defy, Instincts, Sunflower, Unbreakable, Vertigo, Warzone, Forever You're Diggin'. The entire album is fantastic cover to cover, and I'm glad I was able to pick it up. It was only like I said, it was only like $15. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good place to stop. We've gone through a lot today. We've gone through a bunch of records. There's more to come, obviously more to talk about, but this video's gone on long enough. And you're probably tired of listening to me ranting. But anyway, I hope that was at least to give you an idea of some of the Rise Records bands. I always call it the '09 Warped Tour bands, to give you an idea, because in Warped Tour, not only did we have punk and pop punk and ska and all this other stuff, but we had heavy metal bands playing at Warped Tour every year, and I think that was a good place for all of us to come together. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing all right out there. I hope you guys are taking care of each other. Happy 2024. Merry Christmas to everyone who I didn't get to talk to earlier. I hope everyone's doing wonderful, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys soon. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know what to do at the bottom. All right? Peace.